For decades, educational technologies have steadily reduced friction around information. Search engines eliminated much of the need to physically navigate libraries. Spell check reduced attention to mechanical writing errors. Navigation systems diminished the importance of memorizing routes and maps. Now, artificial intelligence is extending this process even further. Machines increasingly help people retrieve information, organize ideas, summarize documents, generate drafts, and provide solutions to problems. In many ways, these systems function as extensions of ourselves. They do not simply store knowledge, they participate in the thinking processes themselves. And that raises another curious educational question. As intelligent systems increasingly carry portions of cognitive labor for us, how does human thinking change in response? Welcome to the EdTech Curio Cabinet. I'm Christina, and in each curio, we explore the evolving world of education through 4 lenses. The artifact, a tool, practice, or technology shaping modern learning. The pattern, the historical forces surrounding it. The paradox, the tension hidden beneath the surface. And finally, the signal, a glimpse into where education may be heading next. In this curio, we'll dive into the concept of cognitive offloading in the outsourced mind. One of the defining characteristics of modern AI systems is their ability to reduce cognitive workload. Students can now ask intelligent systems to summarize research papers, to organize their lecture notes, generate study notes and flashcards, create outlines, and even draft written responses. In professional settings, similar systems increasingly assist with scheduling, communication, analytics, documentation, and decision support. This phenomenon is sometimes described as cognitive offloading, the process of using external tools to reduce the mental effort required for certain tasks. Importantly, cognitive offloading is not new. Humans have always externalized aspects of cognition. Writing allowed memory to move beyond the limitations of the brain. Maps externalized navigation. Calculators externalized arithmetic computation. But humans have also long externalized thought in a more personal way. Developmental psychologist Lev Vygotsky observed that children often talk to themselves while solving problems. What he called private speech was not a sign of distraction, but a mechanism for organizing attention, for planning actions, and regulating thought. Over time, much of this self-directed dialogue becomes internalized as silent reasoning. Modern neuroscience continues to support the idea that making thoughts visible, whether through writing, speaking, sketching, or discussion, can strengthen cognitive processing. In many ways, humans have always used external tools to help themselves think. Philosopher Andy Clark and cognitive scientist David Chalmers later extended this idea through their influential theory of the extended mind, arguing that tools and environments can become integrated into human cognitive processes themselves. From this perspective, notebooks, whiteboards, smartphones, search engines, and AI assistants are not entirely separate from thought. They become part of how humans think. Artificial intelligence may represent the next major evolution of this relationship, because unlike earlier tools, AI systems increasingly participate dynamically in reasoning processes rather than simply storing information. And education now finds itself at the center of that transition. Throughout history, new cognitive tools have repeatedly transformed educational priorities, and each technological shift triggered anxiety alongside opportunity. Socrates himself reportedly worried that writing would weaken memory by encouraging dependence on external records. Centuries later, similar concerns appeared around calculators in mathematics classrooms. Would students lose foundational skills? Would convenience weaken understanding? And yet education consistently adapted. Certain skills diminished in importance, while others became more valuable. As information retrieval became easier through search engines, educational emphasis gradually shifted toward evaluation, synthesis, and interpretation. Researchers studying cognition have observed similar patterns repeatedly. As tools absorb certain mental tasks, human attention often shifts towards higher-order forms of thinking. Memory gives way to interpretation. Calculation gives way to modeling. And retrieval gives way to judgment. The challenge is not whether cognition changes, but which forms of cognition become more important as a result. Today's AI systems may represent another step in this historical pattern, but this transition feels different in one important way. Previous tools largely supported isolated cognitive functions. But modern AI systems increasingly operate across many of these functions simultaneously. They summarize, generate, compare, explain, and even imitate reasoning itself. That breadth makes the educational implications more profound, because cognition is about developing mental structures through effort and practice, not just producing outputs. And that introduces a significant paradox. AI systems can dramatically increase human productivity. Students may complete tasks more efficiently, professionals may process information more rapidly, and cognitive burdens may decrease across many forms of work. In many contexts, this creates genuine value. But education introduces a unique complication. Learning often depends on the very cognitive effort these systems reduce. Writing helps clarify thought. In fact, the act of generating explanations may be part of learning itself. Students often discover what they truly understand only when they attempt to explain an idea aloud, or defend a position, or articulate reasoning step by step. What appears externally as communication is often an internal process of thought becoming visible. Problem solving develops reasoning pathways. Retrieval strengthens memory. Drafting, revising, and struggling with ideas contribute to conceptual understanding. When intelligent systems absorb portions of that effort, the relationship between performance and learning becomes less straightforward. The paradox here is subtle. Tools that increase immediate capability can sometimes reduce opportunities for deep mastery if used without reflection. And yet history suggests that abandoning powerful cognitive tools is rarely realistic or even productive. So in light of historical patterns that are right in front of us, how should educational systems integrate AI while preserving meaningful cognitive engagement? Perhaps some activities increasingly prioritize process visibility rather than the final answers. Perhaps classrooms place greater emphasis on interpretation, critique, and collaborative thinking, because education concerns the development of human capability itself. And that capability still grows through participation in thinking, not merely exposure to results. As AI systems become increasingly integrated into daily cognition, one educational skill may grow especially important: metacognition, the ability to think about thinking. Throughout history, humans have developed ways of making thought visible through writing, discussion, reflection, and even talking to themselves while solving problems. These practices help learners monitor understanding, identify misconceptions, and regulate their own learning. Artificial intelligence introduces a new layer to this process. Students may increasingly need to understand when to rely on AI assistance versus when independent reasoning matters. They need to learn how to verify generated information and recognize how cognitive shortcuts influence understanding. Discernment may become as important as retrieval once was, and educators may place a crucial role in helping students develop this awareness. Future classrooms may spend more time exploring how we evaluate machine-generated explanations, or when does automation support learning, or how does it diminish engagement, and what forms of struggle remain educationally valuable. These are not simply technical questions. They're cognitive and philosophical ones. And encouragingly, education is already well positioned to explore them. Teachers routinely help students move beyond memorization through reflection, interpretation, and judgment. Because even in the world filled with intelligent systems, humans still decide what matters, what deserves attention, and what forms of understanding are worth developing. Human beings have always shaped their thinking through tools. Writing changed memory, libraries changed access to knowledge, search engines changed information retrieval, and even before modern technologies existed, humans learned to externalize thought through speech, conversation, and reflection. Artificial intelligence may now be changing cognition itself more directly by participating in processes that once occurred entirely within the learner. And as always, education faces a similar challenge: preserving deep human learning while integrating increasingly powerful tools. So the question really becomes whether we will remain active participants in our own thinking as intelligent systems think alongside us. Educational tools continue to evolve alongside human cognition, but meaningful learning still develops through engagement, reflection, and practice. That's why we keep the cabinet open. Thanks for exploring the EdTech Curio Cabinet.